Welcome into the Commanders Report. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Today we got some major Week 7 injury updates that I want to share with you guys at the top of today's show. Then we'll get into the newly signed wide receiver, former first-round pick Treylon Burks, and what he brings to the Washington Commanders wide receiver room. What can you expect from the former first-round pick here in Washington? I'll answer that question later in today's show, so make sure you guys stick around. But before we get into the content today, help us make history here on the Commanders Report for the month of October. During the month of October, we have never gotten a video during this month with 1,000 likes. Today, I would like to break that right now. So make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already. It helps out the channel because it tells the YouTube algorithm that Commanders fans are enjoying this content. They should push this out to other Commanders fans like yourselves. And that gets new eyeballs, which means new subscribers, all that great stuff, guys. So if you want to help us out today, help us get to our first 1,000 like video ever in the history of our channel in the month of October. So unfortunately, the Commanders did get some bad news once again when it comes to superstar wide receiver Terry McLaurin, where he will now officially miss his fourth straight game with kind of a mysterious groin slash hip slash quad injury that just hasn't really progressed over the last few weeks. He was able to return to practice a little bit this week. But it just hasn't really responded in the way that we kind of hoped that it would. And obviously, that is very bad news if you're a Washington Commanders fan, because this is a very big game against the Dallas Cowboys. And to have Terry McLaurin, your big-time wide receiver that you just paid this offseason heading into the year, would have been really nice. And honestly, I don't know if I love where this is headed for Terry McLaurin. Even when this injury was first announced, it was all just kind of mysterious to me, man. Like it was announced that he couldn't really run on it. He had like a little bit of a hip flexor slash quad slash issue, and it's just kind of a mysterious situation. He went to go see a core body specialist, not a quad, muscle specialist for his recovery. And, this just seems like an injury where, it probably would have made sense for the Washington Commanders, especially now in hindsight, him missing 4 straight games. It would have been nice if the Commanders would have put him on IR and you would have had an opportunity to use one of your active roster spots on somebody else other than keeping Terry McLaurin on the active roster all this time, and he just misses the same amount of time regardless. So, I just don't love where the trajectory is going with Terry, and I really hope it's not heading towards like a Noah Brown situation here where they put him on IR and he has to miss 4 more weeks down the road. I'm just hoping that, Dan Quinn keeps saying that it's trending in the right direction, but I don't see it, man. I don't see him, getting back to practice. I don't see him running out there on the practice field. I don't see him looking ready to play football. So, I don't like where that's headed. And then also, when he does get back, it's going to be weird for him to get that chemistry back with Jaden Daniels because he missed all that time in training camp. And then also, it's not just Noah Brown, it's not just Terry McLaurin, guys, but it's also Deebo Samuel now, where he didn't sound super optimistic today during his media availability about his chances of playing this week. I think the exact quote he had was, "We'll just have to wait and see if I can play on Sunday." And he says that, his heel injury keeps getting worse the more that he runs on it. Now, he was able to be a limited participant in practice today, so we'll see if Deebo's able to give it a go. But there's a very real possibility that this Sunday, guys, the Washington Commanders, for the first time this season, is going to be without all 3 of their starting wide receivers for this football team, and really what's considered by me to be like pretty much a must-win football game. It feels like a must-win football game for this Washington Commanders team because you got a really tough stretch of games coming up, and you do not want to dip below 500 before you go into that stretch. And you look at the bench that the Commanders have here at the wide receiver position. Like, you got Chris Moore, Luke McCaffrey, Jaylin Lane. That'll probably be your starting trio right there if all 3 of the starters can't go. But then you also got Robbie Chosen. Apparently, Robbie's been getting a lot of work in practice this week. He could be a candidate to be brought up from the practice squad. Ja'Cory Brooks is another candidate for that as well. And then Treylon Burks was just signed. I kind of doubt he'll get a helmet this week just because he was just signed. There's no way, you can really ramp him up in time for him to get a full workload against the Dallas Cowboys. So can't say I'm loving what the wide receiver situation looks like right now. But if you are looking for some hope on the injury front here, it does sound like according to what Coach Q was saying today, how optimistic he sounded about Sam Cosmi's status. It sounds like he will have a chance to play on Sunday versus the Cowboys. Now, he has a questionable status heading into the week, and you guys can take a look at the full injury report here on Friday. As you guys can see, Terry McLaurin is listed as out, and then Dorrance Armstrong, Sam Cosmi, and then a couple of kind of interesting names there. Zach Ertz and Jonathan Jones are listed as questionable, as well as Deebo Samuel. Now, I will say right now, guys, I think Ertz will probably be able to go, and I think that Jonathan Jones will probably be able to go as well, but we're going to have to wait and see on Deebo. We're going to have to wait and see on Cosmi, and we're going to have to wait and see on Armstrong. And there's a lot of very important players for the Commanders' offense here. And if you're losing Deebo and Zach Ertz along with Terry McLaurin and Noah Brown, I mean, you can almost kiss your any chance of a win goodbye versus this Dallas Cowboys team, even though their defense isn't that great. Without those weapons, I think it's going to be very difficult for the Commanders to really keep up in what I'm expecting to be a shootout versus a very good Dallas Cowboys offense on Sunday afternoon. Now, we shift our focus here to Dallas, and you guys just can't make this up, okay? Trayvon Diggs apparently last night was at home, and apparently he had a quote-unquote accident, and now he's unexpectedly out for this football game with a concussion. All right, so Trayvon Diggs, their number one corner, will not be on the field for the Dallas Cowboys. That should be at least a little bit of a boost for the Washington Commanders' chances of having success in the passing game. But, even if Diggs was playing, he's one of the easiest double move guys to bait in the entire league. He jumps on every double move ever. So, honestly, I'm not even sure if this is a good thing for the Commanders. Trayvon Diggs, I think, kind of stinks. And, outside of that one season where he had all those interceptions, people have kind of figured out, how to scheme against him. And, he hasn't been good since. So maybe it's a good thing for the Cowboys that he's not playing. But then, some bad news for the Commanders here is that it does appear that superstar wide receiver for the Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb, will be returning to the lineup this week. So not only are the Commanders probably going to be out, Deebo Samuel, Terry McLaurin, and Noah Brown, all three of their starting receivers, Dallas is going to be all hands on deck in that regard with Dak Prescott throwing them the football. So all I got to say, man, is I hope our secondary comes ready to play. Marshawn Lattimore, Trey Amos, Mike Samerstill, Quan Martin. I hope these guys are ready to go because, these two guys right here, George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, they're a handful, especially when you got Dak Prescott throwing them the football. So those guys better be ready. And if they're not, it's going to be, fireworks for the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday afternoon. Now, coming up here on the Commanders Report, I'm going to be breaking down Treylon Burks' profile. I'll share my scouting report on him and what he brings to the Washington Commanders practice squad and eventually the wide receiver room on the active roster. But before we get into the rest of today's show, you guys can get a Jaden Daniels jersey of your own right now when you go chatsports.com/Daniels. You guys can get a great price on a Jaden Daniels jersey. It also helps out the channel because every time you click our link, chatsports.com/Daniels, that's down in the comments and description of today's show, and then you make a purchase, our sponsor is going to give us part of the proceeds for that purchase. So not only do you get a really stylish Jaden Daniels jersey, but also we get part of the proceeds, so you're helping out the channel. And they got all the different colorways that the Commanders wear. They got the all blacks, they've got the Super Bowl alternates, they've got the regular burgundy and whites. Whatever your style is, you guys can go chatsports.com/Daniels and pick up your Jaden Daniels jersey today. If you don't have one yet, man, what are you waiting for? Jaden Daniels is the face of this franchise, and that's going to be the way it is for a very long time, in my opinion. If you're with me on that, you love JD and you want to help out the channel, get yourself a JD jersey at chatsports.com/Daniels today. So yesterday, the Washington Commanders signed wide receiver Treylon Burks, a former first-round pick out of the University of Arkansas. He has spent the last several seasons in Tennessee. Of course, they spent that first-round pick on him with the draft pick that they got in exchange for A.J. Brown back in the day. And he was supposed to be the replacement for A.J. Brown in that Tennessee offense, and it just never really worked out for a bevy of different reasons, okay? But Treylon Burks, comes here on a kind of like a high-reward, low-risk type of practice squad kind of deal, 25 years old, still very young. He's got great size, 6'2", 225 pounds, very functionally strong. So he can be a decent run blocker. And again, he's somebody that was highly touted coming out of Arkansas just a few seasons ago. And, of course, he broke his collarbone during training camp. Apparently that's back to 100%, and he was released by the Titans once he was ready to come back to the team because the Titans have essentially moved on from Treylon Burks at this point in time. In terms of my scouting report on him, guys, I think he's got excellent size. I think that what he was known for in college was his yak ability because he's so big and he's so fast for his size. He's kind of like an undersized tight end, oversized receivers, kind of like in that kind of mold of today's kind of quote-unquote positionless kind of pass catcher type of role. The Jonnu Smiths of the world, the Brock Bowerses of the world, kind of the bigger type of receivers. Treylon Burks certainly fits into that category. He's also had flashes of really high-end hand usage and, ability to make tough catches in contested situations. He has some crazy highlights in his time there in Tennessee of making some really tough catches in space and in contested situations. And then because of the size and the functional strength, his run blocking potential as a wide receiver is really, really good. He can certainly handle smaller DBs in the run blocking game. But the cons, he doesn't bring a lot of route running to the table because he's a bigger guy. Change of direction isn't all that fantastic. He does have some inconsistency with his hands. He will make incredible catches, and then he'll have a concentration drop. He'll have those inconsistencies. And then also a big thing for why it just didn't work out in Tennessee is because of the injury risk, all right, and the fact that he just couldn't stay healthy. And it was just a number of different injuries that were stacking up. He was never on the practice field to develop. He was never on the game. He was never on the playing field in games to develop chemistry with his quarterbacks, and it just never worked out for him there in Tennessee. So hopefully he can have a little bit better fortune in terms of staying healthy here in Washington. And for me, guys, I don't think he's going to be like a big-time contributor or like a legitimate every-down starter anytime soon. For me, I think Burks is essentially an insurance policy in case Deebo Samuel gets injured, because Deebo plays a very specific role in this Commanders offense, which is kind of that bigger chess piece type of guy that can be a run blocker, can be a screen threat on early downs, a yak threat, someone that can get open on crossers. I think, don't get me wrong, guys, Deebo Samuel is a lot better than Treylon Burks is. It's just that Burks brings a similar size to the table. He brings a similar yak kind of skill set to the table. And if Deebo goes down, there's nobody else really on this team that can fill his role in this offense. But now they do, adding Treylon Burks. And you guys can take a look here at the wide receiver depth. And as we discussed earlier, it's just not very deep. You got Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Noah Brown, but they're all hurt right now. Hopefully Deebo's able to give it a go on Sunday. And then you've got some younger players like Luke McCaffrey and Jaylin Lane. You've got some veterans like Chris Moore and Robbie Chosen. But for me, guys, I don't think Treylon Burks is being brought in here to be like the new wide receiver 2 of the future or anything like that, or a legitimate wide receiver 3 to replace Noah Brown. I really think he's probably just Deebo Samuel insurance so that he can fill his role in this offense if Deebo's heel injury regresses in the weeks to come. But in the end, man, I certainly don't mind taking a flyer on somebody that was a former first-round pick, is very physically talented, and certainly still has a little bit of potential in there, given that he's just 25 years old. So hopefully he can stay healthy here in Washington. Hopefully he can ramp up as soon as he possibly can. And frankly, hopefully, he doesn't need to come in because Deebo Samuel's hurt. All right, I don't think we want to be relying on Treylon Burks to take over Deebo Samuel's production in this offense. So, at the end of the day, I'm fine taking a flyer on a young man that's very talented, but I would say certainly temper your expectations, especially in the weeks to come, in terms of just how impactful Treylon Burks is going to be. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section. Will Treylon Burks end up being a good signing? Simply give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section, what you guys think. And that'll be it for today's edition of the Commanders News and Rumors. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. I'll see you guys tomorrow with our preview of Commanders versus Cowboys, getting you ready for Sunday's matchup. So make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Till next time, guys, hail to the Commanders.